Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote. I'm your host on today's show. And today I have Anji Maddox, CEO and founder of She Spies Private Eye, as my guest. We're going to learn about her business, her journey to business ownership, best practices she's learned along the way, and some challenges that she's faced to give you that inside scoop to what it's like to run and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, Anji. Thanks for being here. It's so great to meet you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to dive in and chat about your business. But before we dive into all things business, feel free to share a bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I'm Angie Maddox, and I started She Spies Private Eye back in about 2003. And we specialize in child custody and domestic matters, but we also do insurance and corporate investigations and backgrounds and missing people. There's a whole array of services that we provide. So we can be of help to a lot of people. I have an Austin office, a Round Rock office, and a Dallas office. So we pretty much cover all of the state of Texas.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I'm excited to dive into that. I'm just taking notes as we go. So if you see me typing, that's why. But that sounds incredible. So you've been in business since 2003. Now, I am very curious how you got into being in business as a private eye. So what was that moment like? How did you know you wanted to get into business?
So my grandfather was a judge and an attorney. My mother is a genealogy expert. So I grew up helping my mother do a lot of library runs, cemetery runs. She was always investigating and always searching for ancestors and stories. And she would even take me with her to, back then it was a tape recorder and a little, microphone. And she would talk with ancestors, and I would sit and watch her talk to everybody. That's when I really felt the need to do some form of investigations. I didn't know in what realm, but something along that line. So I ended up graduating from the University of Houston with a criminal justice degree and thought, okay, am I going to go to law school? What am I going to do? I thought about FBI, just I was looking at all my options, and I ended up getting a job. Actually, I was doing my internship with the juvenile probation department, and they ended up offering me a job. I always said I will never be a juvenile probation officer, and I'm going to say this, never say never. I ended up falling in love working with the at-risk youth. So here we are. I have a criminal justice degree. I'm working with at-risk youth, and I realized, wow, this is my passion. And it was my heart getting really, really attached to some of these kids. And I always call them my kids. However, of course, when you work in the government sector, there's lots of rules and policies, and sadly they're overworked and underpaid. And as much as I admire what they do, it's just the reality. So I went to work for the Austin Police Department, and I was a background investigator. Fell in love again with investigations. And while I was there, I met, ironically, a female private investigator, and she just did courthouse research. And she was actually notarizing some documents for me. And she found out my background and said, "Oh my goodness, Angie, you would be perfect at being a private investigator." And I thought, I had not thought about doing something in the private sector. So I started to do my research, and I met a retired FBI agent, and he took me under his wing and showed me what being a private investigator, he did more criminal. What I ended up figuring out was that I wanted to do more child custody and more family law type matters, the domestic side of things. Because again, the child custody, that was my heart, were these children. And I decided, you know what? Instead of being a juvenile probation officer and seeing the effects of kids in either a poor home, a bad environment, a divorced environment, why can't I be on the other side and help keep kids safe and help keep them in the right home? So that's pretty much how I eventually got into private investigations. So that's kind of the background.
Wow, that's incredible. I love learning about your story and just how it kind of sparked from, family members and learning as a kid and getting involved. I think that's it's such a unique and kind of a invigorating career choice, especially when you can help the kids and help families. Uh,
Yes.
and looking at business now, you've been in business for a while, since 2003. So I'd love to learn about your team. How many team members do you currently have? And what does your team look like? Are you in an office? Are you remote? Those are a couple questions.
Sure. And those are good questions. A lot of people ask. We are both actually. So I do have offices where I can meet my clients and keep their privacy, all of that kind, because of course sometimes people are nervous, which is very common. They've never hired a private investigator. So I do have that, but then we also work remote. I have two full-time office staff, and then of course myself. So there's three of us girls. Andreza is my background specialist, and she also does administration work. She's actually from Brazil, but she went to college in Florida, so in Miami Beach. So she worked for a PI out of New York and Florida, fell in love with it, and I'm lucky enough to get her, and she's been phenomenal. Kim is my lead investigator in the office. So the three of us deal with the daily calls and the daily communication with the clients. That's everything behind the scenes is what the three of us do. Then, of course, I've got my field agents. So I have, probably about four four individuals in the Dallas area, but I have more that I can call on colleagues. Um, but then in Austin, I have probably more like 6 or 7 individuals in the Austin area. And then, of course, colleagues all over the state that I can utilize. The field investigators are a mixture of women and men, but primarily women. And those are my surveillance agents. Those are the ones that we assign the cases to, and they go out and do the assignment based on whatever our objective is. So,
Oh, wow. That sounds like a great team. Now, would you say are your field agents, are they mostly contracted or are they employees of the business?
they're actual employees of my business. Yeah, there's only a few that are actually subcontractors, but for the most part, I like them to be directly with me and under She Spy's private eye. So that's pretty much how most of them are.
Okay. And how common is it there to like I don't hear of private eyes often. So how common is it to have a private eye practice? And then also, what does your competition look like?
So it's actually become a lot more common over the years. And, you know, I think what has always helped me is being a female. So and I'm not dogging my male colleague friends. They're all great. However, a lot of clients want the female, depending on, of course, the objective. That is why I have male and female teams. So, as far as my competitors, I can't, I don't know how some of them run their business or do things. I do know that a lot of times we'll have clients that have called around, spoken to other agencies, and then they call us and they're just right off the bat, oh my goodness, I want to hire you. And I think a lot of it is because we're very compassionate. We show a lot of empathy. We also take the time to spend with everybody. I live on my phone. All of us, we live on our phones constantly. It's not an 8 to 5 job. It's a 24/7 job.
Mhm.
And that's not for everybody. So I've had colleagues who said, I don't take a call after 5 o'clock. I'm done. Sadly, the nature, and that's their choice, that's fine. Sadly, the nature of our business, it's not, like I said, it's not 8 to 5. Things happen at night, things happen on a whim. And
Mhm.
we'll get a desperate call from someone, and you've got to be ready to tackle that call and try to help that person to the best of your ability. And that's something I strive for with all my potential clients and my clients.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing a bit about that. I can completely see and understand that it being that 24/7, because you never know when you're going to have a client with an emergency or something where you have to be ready to help them at any given moment of the day.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, as you see yourself in business, are you looking to grow and expand, or do you what do you see for that right now? Are you growing, or are you at a really good stable place, kind of more even keel place?
Growth to me is always good. The key is, are you able to handle the growth? If your quality declines, your quality of work declines because your growth is too fast, then that's not a smart business decision. So I've gotten it to where I'm still able to provide great quality of work for my clients. We're busy enough. If the growth just continues to grow, and we've been so blessed, we've really grown a lot in the last 5 years, maybe 8 years. It's just being equipped to handle that growth. So if the growth happens, then I will adapt to that growth. I'm happy where I'm at right now, but I'm not the type of person to say no. I don't like telling people no. I get a lot of resumes from people wanting to get into the industry. And so if I can, adapt to that growth and provide good quality work for my client, then I'll do it. So
You definitely touched on a golden nugget in the conversation right there, looking at this, having that stability as you're growing or wherever the business takes you. I think that's something that many of our listeners can definitely tune into, because that's a huge part. Growth is only good if it's sustainable. Right.
exactly. That's right. Yeah.
And so as you see yourself in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, where do you see the company going?
Um, my girls in the office have actually talked about, did I want to expand outside of Texas? It's been a thought. However, I actually think what's probably more of interest to me is doing, maybe not a, well, maybe a nonprofit type. What we see are so many people who have a need, yet they can't afford it. Um, our work is expensive. It's a lot of times very needed, especially when you're talking about child custody, but also fraud. That's a very needed service, but it's expensive, and not everybody can afford that. So something that I've had in the back of my mind for a while now is, I wished I had some type of program to where we could help women and children who don't have the money, who need the service really badly. How could we somehow help them? So that is something I'm working on in the background. I would love to be able to offer that, because it breaks my heart when we get calls from people that they were taken to the cleaners. They, want to fight for their children, keep their children safe, but they don't have the monetary means to be able to afford us. So that's the part that really gets to me. And I thought, there's got to be a way that we can help those people truly in need.
Definitely, definitely. I've seen My sister actually worked for the crisis center a few years ago and saw a lot of similar things come through. And there is such a need in the world
Yes,
right now. I agree.
yes.
And looking at as you're growing, as you're thinking about business, how do you see your team developing? Do you see any emerging leaders on your team to, help the company grow?
So Kim, my lead investigator in the office, she came to me from a totally different field. She was actually in the pet business. She, worked at a pet resort. She managed it. She has great managerial skills, but a totally different industry. So for the first 2 years, she did not want to have anything to do with, I mean, she wanted to answer the calls and that was about it. She's now been with me 5 years, and I have watched her grow into this just really, really caring. Not that she wasn't caring before, but she's more confident talking to our clients and letting them understand what we can do, what we can't do. And they feel that in her, they can hear it in her, and they appreciate that. So I'm happy to say watching her grow over the 5 years has been really rewarding to me. And her confidence level is just, she's like, oh my goodness, I never would have thought I could do this. And I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you've done it. So that's, and as far as my field agents, same thing. I'm always, we do quarterly trainings. And what I like to do is update them on any changes with the laws, things we can and can't do. I try to keep them up to speed so that they know what they're doing and they're doing a great job. I really like also expressing the teamwork because most of the time when we're doing surveillance, they're in teams of two. So I really work hard at making them understand how they have to work together as a team because it's not just one person, it's all of us as a team that are helping our clients. So I'm big on that.
I love teamwork too. That's a really great point, and it's so cool to hear about emerging leaders on your team. Now I want to share a little bit about a transparent look into challenges you may be facing in business because, as business owners, it can be a lonely place and it can be a place where we don't know where to turn because who we have to turn to is ourselves instead of somebody else. And so, what are some of the things that you're currently challenged with in business and maybe potential roadblocks that you're trying to overcome?
Well, a lot of it is people think about it. When you first think of a private investigator, so many people imagine this sleuth type person with a coat and doing something they shouldn't be doing, hiding behind the bushes. That's not at all what we're about. I've had people even ask me if I would do things under the table. They're like, well, can you do it off the record and under the table? And I'm like, no, we cannot. We are regulated by the Texas Department of Public Safety. So we have laws that we have to adhere to. I cannot go out and break the law to gain, your objective. That's not going to happen. But I think some people don't always take us seriously.
Mm.
And that's why I like doing things like this, podcast or interviews, because I want to educate the public that we are a very professional industry. We are, you can trust us. We have laws to adhere to, we have rules and regulations we have to adhere to. And so that is a hurdle that we get with a lot of individuals is, and then they get mad when we tell them, well, we can't get phone records and we can't go tap your wife's computer, or we can't put a tracking device on your car. Then they get mad and, well, then what can you do? And I'm like, if you'll let me sit and explain, I'll tell you what we can legally do, because that's
Mhm.
all one that we're going to do. But two, it has to be admissible in court.
Mhm.
So, you, you know, and I've worked very hard to get where I'm at in my career. And so I'm not going to jeopardize that. So that is one of the big hurdles that we face with people. And they think we're not confidential. They think we're sharing information. And I'm like, no, no, no. It's like hiring an attorney.
Mhm.
Everything is very confidential. We do everything in our power not to breach confidentiality. But I'll have people think that we're some shady type of business. And I thought, well, no, that's not. And you called us, so you must have some faith in us. But that's probably one of my biggest hurdles with just dealing with the public and trying to express to people that I am a business owner that is reputable and you can count on us to do our very best job. So
Definitely. It sounds like marketing and education are two things that you're kind of like working to just make sure everybody understands. Because even when I thought, because of a PI, I didn't know what to expect. You see things in the movies, you see things, but then as we were talking, I felt like more like a lawyer or an attorney situation. You're hiring someone for a specific legal or some matter that needs to be done. And like you said, there's a lot of regulations involved.
right. And because we're licensed by the state, we're considered an expert witness. So we
Mhm.
can go and testify on your behalf. So, a lot of people don't realize that as well. Is that is, and we end up going to court, or because of our evidence, they end up settling out of court. They don't want us on the stand. So that's how we help our clients, those kind of things.
Definitely. It sounds like a huge asset in like many cases to have you on that on a person's side for sure.
I think so.
If I ever need a PI, I know who to call.
Good.
Oh, well, this has been a fun conversation. Before we wrap up, I want to go into our rapid fire Q&A where I ask you four questions and you answer very top of mind.
Okay. Okay. I'm
All
ready.
right. Question number one is, what is a key to success for you?
Um, I think for me in my industry, it's going to be compassion, transparency, being honest. Um, in our industry, those are really key, and not giving up, not giving up, and try and letting people know you're there to help.
Definitely. Number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
In my opinion, you really need to show your heart. People want to trust you. And I think that goes for any business. If the consumer can trust you and they feel that vibe, I feel like then you're going to be successful. Also, staying on top of technology and the market, what's in, what's out, what your competitors are doing or not doing. Those are all keys that I've discovered in my line of work.
Definitely. And number three is, it could be a book, a podcast, an article, anything that you've taken in most recently.
I'm right now reading a leadership book. It's all about being a good leader for my team and teaching them how to find the leaders in themselves. So that's what I'm on right now.
Sounds like a great book for sure. And the final question, if you could wave a magic wand and overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
That would be that I could blink my eyes and snap my fingers, and I could have an agent where they needed to be in a moment's notice. When you talk about magically, that's because our calls, a lot of times they're emergencies and they're like, can you be at the house in 30 minutes? Well, it's not realistic. We'll get there as fast as we can, but gosh, I wish I could do that.
That sounds incredible. Well, thank you so much for answering the rapid fires. Before we wrap up for the day with the final question, how can people connect with you and your business online?
So they can just go to our website, which is shespiespiI.com. They can fill out an online consultation form that gets, that comes to us. or they can call our office. Either way, that'd be the way to connect. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Angie. And for our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
What's most inspiring is getting results for my clients when I'm feeling down about a situation, but then we get a phone call that somebody won what they were fighting for in court. And because of our evidence, that helped them and they're crying and they're happy. That makes me go, this is why I do my job. This is what inspires me to keep moving forward, trying to help people, even if it can be very stressful. It's
Mm,
rewarding. Yeah.
well, that is so inspiring to hear. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been such a joy to learn about you and your private eye business.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.